Hello, retired smuggler David McMillan here, and as you stagger out of lockdown, I give you this tranquil scene to do a little quick review of the things that are going on with the view to having you avoid the great blunders that you, I feel, will make this summer. I must say, I don't really have time for this, but I can't ignore it. You're about to make a lot of poor choices and bad decisions. Choices are all over you at the moment. God damn it. Hey, Zig? Look, what have I got here? I got to sign a few of these. You going to help me? Ziggy, you're not much use. A pile of these things have arrived and, well, they've got to be signed and sent. And I've got to really understand who it's for. I don't know why I started this. There's no money in it, I can tell you. But it's interesting. And I know a lot of you, not today's, but many are about to make some poor choices and bad decisions. I take my hat off to you for at least thinking about it. But you know what that leads to. A decision, and usually a bad one. I'll get back to the book signings later. Actually, I've become friends with quite a few of the people for whom I've signed books, and really, your secrets are safe with me. I think that's why they tell me, because they know I've had to keep secrets for a living. And, well, you couldn't get more of a social outcast than I, so who better to tell? And I'll certainly keep the advice I give you just between us and the book cover, just inside. I tell you what, you've got to call the guy a prince. Isn't he a prince, old Andrew? That man's a prince, you hear many people saying. Ghislaine Maxwell refused bail, sobbed a bit. Maybe I would too. But really, should we be sobbing about what she did or herself? Pathetic? Surely. Villainous? I don't know, Ziggy. The thing is, I had a guy call me today from prison. Yeah, unexpectedly. Ziggy, stop it. Don't interfere with the editorial. Others will do that. He called me from prison. He's in trouble. Nothing new there. He's always in trouble. He's in a couple of videos back about orphans and hopeless cases. One of those. That's worse. Railway station, a lot of drama. In evidence, the phrase red mist has come up. He asked me what it was. He didn't even know. Oh, God. He thought it meant anger. It doesn't really. In this context, it's the red mist was the atmosphere in Syria on a street corner when a bomb had just gone off. Was that pink mist? Let me know. So, the prince, he's I keep saying that all afternoon. If he wasn't a Prince Andrew, then he should be made one. But let's not forget that in the world of atrocities, in the world of sexual misbehavior, all this stuff is pretty low level. Now, I don't mean to dismiss the developed and heartfelt grief that some of the, well, we'll call them victims, everybody else says that. No, I won't dismiss their feelings, but there are a lot more terrible things that have gone on than being groped. A lot of the, extraordinary thing, my first wife went to a Catholic school, and so it was an all-girls school with the kind of strict rules that go with that kind of a school. She told me that in her class, about 1 in 10 of the girls admitted to her that their first sexual experience was with their father. Now, this was back in the late 60s. And of course, those things were all covered up. Did they get over it? were they inventing it? And if they were inventing it, why? All vaguely interesting questions. But if we're trying to set levels of things, really the Epstein and Andrew stuff is kind of pathetic. If I was one of the dads, would I reach for my shotgun? I don't think so. No. Then again, I might. I don't know whether anybody would actually get over any kind of encounter with somebody with an egg-shaped dick. That's a step too far. But enough of that. It's such trash, really, isn't it? God. He's a prince, though. Marty, I read the 30-page manifesto you sent. And Marty, really back off. Thing is, these are personalized. I shouldn't be encouraging you, but there's something else going on. Look, your decisions are really off the back of the atmosphere. Don't let that mist, the fog of war, confuse you. For example, this week, what's her name? Shamima Begum. She's been given the right to defend herself in a court of law over losing her citizenship. Is that good? Do you want her back here? Fact is, she was born here, wasn't she? I think we have to take responsibility for our own 15-year-olds who run off to war. Now, she doesn't help her own case, of course. Every time she opens her mouth, she makes it worse. I wouldn't go so far as to say she pillow smothered one of her babies just to make her case look better, but there are those who might think that. But put her aside. Yep, she spouts off more or less justifying some of Islamic State's more grander bits of mischief. But the fact that she's an imbecile doesn't take away our responsibility. We are Britain, and we have children. No matter what they end up, we have to deal with it. Make her stateless? Yeah, that's brave. I don't think so. Let's be a bit manly about it, shall we? If not fatherly, then. Just a little rider to the Shamima Begum story and the Syrian war brides and all of that. There's an extra level of hypocrisy about all this. We, in the powerful West with our wonderful armies, did nothing much there. No. We stirred up a bit of trouble and handed out some money to have wars by proxy, which is the way you do it if you're a rich country, like Arabia. You get your dirty work done by somebody else, and for what reason? I don't know. Perhaps it's, it's a kingdom in Saudi Arabia. Perhaps it's princely entertainment. That seems to have a high cost, doesn't it? But we could have stepped in Syria, and I think probably should have, early on, because we had something on our hands that had a pretty just cause. I don't mean replacing one leader with another and all that nonsense. But that was the difficulty, I see. If you step in there, take the guns off everybody, and in the process kill quite a few, you come up against the realpolitik of dealing with the other side, which in this case was backed up by Russia, and none of us wanted to really jump on that particular flag at the time. But even putting that aside, before all that, before Russia took some interest in it, there was an opportunity to do something. Now, if we didn't like the result of doing nothing, then moaning about it, I suppose, is fair enough. But then to quibble over the idea of even more hand not wringing but washing by removing the citizenship, and let's not get crazy about citizenship. What the hell does it mean? Nothing, except that one of the 200-odd states within the world says, yes, this person is guarded by us. It is a citizen, and we'll take that, we'll accept that. It doesn't confer any greatness or anything. Don't think your citizenship carries much weight. Try getting arrested in a foreign country and talking to the consular staff, then you'll see what your citizenship is really worth. Don't worry about it marching in your hometown, complaining about something, because I am a citizen. What's her name? Maxwell girl. She had 3 passports. That put the knife into her bail application, I would think. She knew to keep quiet, but I think it inspires me to do a series on when is the right time to get out of Dodge City. No, it's not quite at the first jump, but there are some little signatures across events that tell you when the time is right. All connected with economics, of course, and maths. Anyway, that's for another day. And just a small coda on the Shamima Begum story, you know, the young woman who wants to return to the UK to get out of a camp in Syria. But what she really needs is somebody to manage her presentation. I noticed the press are using a somewhat calmer photograph of her these days. It looks like in the back of a car or something or other. But in any event, it's certainly an older one. But important point being is she's not wearing the Ninja Turtle outfit, and that would be a start. And I don't think she should be allowed to take the stand. After all represent herself. I always loved that old saying, he who represents himself in court has a fool as a client. Yeah, I like that. It's a good one. All the best, young lady. I saw somebody this week had knocked up a quite big statue to replace the one that was torn down. The guy had been was he a rogue trader back in the 1700s? Or was it even earlier? But whatever he was a ruthless cad. The kind that made Britain great in empire, I suppose. But in his place, somebody had put up a statue, rather ordinary one, of a woman wearing an unflattering dress. And I can't for the life of me remember what she was supposed to have said. But anyway, she took the place, and it has inspired me to offer a 3D printing service. Yes, this week, a huge machine is being delivered capable of making a statue larger than that resting Buddha behind me. Oh, by the way, I made the fountain. You like it? No. Well, it's water. Anyway. Yes, David McMillan here, and I've been prompted out of my usual lethargy at the weekend to jump in because I've got the buzz, the feedback, the sense that a lot of decision-making is about to happen. Yes, people, it's not just summer, that prompts a bit. Where will I go to have fun? How can I avoid work? None of that stuff. But it's also a post-lockdown effect. Decision must be made, a choice. And I also, just from my correspondence, get the idea that most of them are going to be wrong. They're choices based on hope rather than the facts. My 3D statue printing service will offer, within 48 hours, a lifelike and human proportion statue to go anywhere you might want to put it. I think there's a plinth somewhere down, isn't near Trafalgar Square? Anyway, there's a couple of them that are on standby around London just to take statues that are last-minute art ideas. And really, they might be monuments, they might be tributes. There's statues to all sorts of people from antiquity, but ultimately they are art, and they certainly art today. So if you want your art to go up, it might be a statue of yourself or somebody that you think worthy of being placed on high. Okay, made out of, mine will be a mixture from Tarentes of metal powders and resin, and any color you like. Martian green, Venusian red, take your pick. This is not a Chicago football team where we've got to worry about the color. Yeah, I've got something else coming on that too. By the way, I should tell you that statue that was put up in Bristol, it was of Joan Reid, and it was apparently she was a Black Lives Matter protester. Don't know which side, I didn't read the story, but her hand was in the air in a kind of enthusiastic way. But I should say, and don't let this destroy my 3D printing statue service, it didn't last very long. It was taken down not much more than 24 hours after it had been put up. The plinth remains empty now, so here's your opportunity. Still, the only bad side of the story that I can see was the guy who put it up there. I think it was a woman. I don't know. Anyway, we don't know who that was. But you know where you can get your statue. I'm thinking of Gaddafi. Why? Because he was the best-dressed dictator of the 20th century. Top that. But the biggest news of the week really is something you might have missed. It's, I think, Washington State University study using some, disease danger statistics. Anyway, something that gives life expectancy in different countries around the world. And this was to make a prediction of where the population will be spread in the year 2100. Where? Well, different. Who will be on top? Interestingly, in the top 10, Israel and Australia will be, pretty much close to, yes, in the top 10 giant economies. Why? Immigration. Yeah. How does that fit in with a modern day views? I heard a guy on, which was at the Drive Time show on BBC London, outraged he was at the prospect of 300,000 Hong Kong overseas British citizens. I'm talking about Chinese Hong Kong residents coming to live here. I think 300,000 Hong Kongers could very easily and very helpfully be absorbed. But that's my view. And it's the correct one, by the way. Yet this guy was absolutely outraged. Well, I'd better get back into some place where I can tell you about the implications of all that. And if you don't care what things are going to be like in, almost 80 years, well, you haven't really got your eye on the ball. Your children will live into the age of 120, and their children 300, and their children forever. So those population figures might not mean terribly much. And how does that affect you? Like it or not, they will remember you. You'll be doddering into your porridge in some flash nursing home as your great-grandchildren swan in, wearing the latest fashion in bodies. What, looking like 60s James Bond? That was last year. The teenagers all look like Keith Richards now. The height of fashion in body selection. Yeah. The brave new world that's coming is something you should absorb now. So the great mistakes and errors that you're about to make as summer wafts in, like the ashes from a recent fire, well, you might not make them, or you'll tell yourself something else, which is the best you can hope for. Best you can hope for, from me anyway. In the late 60s, I'm old enough to remember a book called The Biological Time Bomb. Yes, it was, well, it sounds, a book that pointed out a belief that the population of the planet was going to be so large it would destroy us all. That was certainly a very strong belief, so much so, as you know, China enforced a one-child policy That meant a lot of pretty ugly abortions and also a lot of excluded people who had 2 children. Not too sure what the rich did back in those days. Well, do what they do today, try to keep a low profile, I suppose. But in any event, the biological time bomb didn't really go off. In fact, only a few years ago, one of those very rational-sounding Swedish scientists presented something that nobody watched, pointing out that on current predictions, the world population would level out at about 11 billion. That simply comes from the idea that, broken down into averages, women would, who are well off, or even just not poor, exercise their little prerogative over having babies and end up having just over 2. What's that work out at? Well, it just replaces the dying population. So at 2.1 you get well, it's about the stable level, accounting for other deaths. But here's the thing, even that's changed. Yes, the University of Washington's medical school has pointed out that, using a study of how countries handle disease, that by 2100, in another 80-odd years' time, about 183 of 195 countries, most of the world anyway, will not be replacing the dying anymore, having less children. That will mean in some of the more advanced countries, the populations will go down. Is that a good thing? The way the world works now, it's not, because you don't have a big enough economy to support all the things you need, because the people who work and generate income and bring all the good stuff, there's not enough of them. And there's, by those figures, a lot of 80-year-olds running around or limping around needing care, and not many little toddlers. Is it worth knowing about? Yes, certainly it is. Does it matter what happens in 80 years' time? We'll all be dead? No, well, I might be, but your children won't be. And the shift that it would mean that Asia and Europe are no longer the great titans of global commerce, but on the numbers of people, Africa would be right up there in the top. Now that shifts around a bit. The United States loses its dominance, according to this study, in about 2050, but gets back up there. The countries, by their reckoning, that do okay, including Australia and, as I mentioned, Israel, interestingly, get that way and stay wealthy by immigration. Australia does take in quite a lot, and with good reason. Their population's small, in case you didn't know. What is it? Is it 25 million yet? Barely. Anyway, so will all this happen? Yeah, I won't say more of the deplorable circumstances in which you found yourself, but to say something helpful. How to help Maria. Specificity. Something that will happen. Maria, when you meet him, he will not be the one. Can I go wrong with that? I don't think so. Next. Let's take into account the fact that studies are announced and they usually turn out to be wrong. In fact, if you went through a list of science-related or study-related findings and conclusions and forecasts, just about all of them have been wrong. But the good thing is, usefully wrong. To be wrong in an interesting and valid way is, well, it's something to aim for. I aim for it all the time. To be wrong, but in an interesting way. But here's where this one, I think, doesn't really present anything that's helpful as all that. Certainly the population shift will happen, but I think to go ahead 80 years and ignore the ingenuity of people. Well, that's always been a mistake. We cunning little people adapt to things, see our opportunities, and devise other methods. Surely, what will be the position of people whose lives can be extended? That wasn't taken into account. Also, it seems that one thing that might be true, the great mixing that I thought would be a leveler might not happen in the same way. That is, if the population of the African countries is so much bigger than the rest of the world, will we get that, well, I used to imagine it would be a nice coffee-coloured mix of happy, smiling people. No, it doesn't quite look it. But we're also going to shrink back and shelter into our imagined place within society. That, again, no. I think it'll all be much cleverer than that. We'll devise things that no one would really imagine taking hold. Oh, sure, we can imagine just about everything, but not how it sinks its teeth into society. So fret ye not over that one. But nonetheless, think of it, especially women who might be watching, that having babies is a relatively rare thing in a lifetime. You think that'll never happen? Fact is, it's happening now. And there will be a shift in that alone. I wrote a Christmas card once, back in, I think it was in the early 90s, to everybody, and it was a little booklet inside, and in the booklet was a short story. It was called Where Were You in 63? No, not for the Kennedy assassination, but Where Were You in 2063, it was suggesting. This was when a new Messiah was born in my little short story. And Joseph and Mary, yes, they were there. They were going to a rock concert, and not a census in, what was it, Jerusalem? No, not Jerusalem. Where the hell was a little kid born? Bethlehem, that's it. Anyway, well, he wasn't really born there, but anyway, and also there was no census at that time. Put all that aside, I think my little Christmas card short story had more in it. They were heading off to, Joseph and Mary off to a rock concert, and she was lugging around the Gestator 7, the latest device for women who want to have children, but don't want to go through the awkwardness of and discomfort of pregnancy. Now, a lot of girls I know will defend all of that, saying it's part of it, it adds to it, suffering is great, all that sort of stuff. I'm a man, what would I know? Thank God, in this case. But would I carry around a Gestator 7 to have my child? It'd be a clone. Well, I wouldn't miss such misfortune on any creature. But nonetheless, in the story, I think the Gestator 7 gets taken by somebody. The three wise men, certainly one was a rock promoter or a music promoter, and I am not sure about the rest. But all things worked out well in the little story. I should dig it out somewhere. In fact, I encourage you to do a little more with your greeting cards to people. This one was a tiny printed book inside the card. You know where I got the idea from? It's a Wonderful Life. That old movie was based on a greeting card that somebody wrote. I thought, well, yeah, I should do that. But really, I meant to be talking about fears of population swing. Well, okay. Plus ça change, as the French say. The more things change, the more they stay the same. So let's keep to the fundamental lessons here, shall we? And the fundamental one today is don't make that bad decision. And you know the one I'm talking about. Gotta go. It's movie night. A little crowd. Oh, by the way, I went to the drive-in last night. Don't do it. It was on a hill. A Star is Born. Yeah, Still, I was in my car. Bye for now. I'm going inside. Too much fresh air. And if you feel like my grumbling about your poor choices, which you have yet to make, but surely will, and not offering very much, I will offer you this. Now, what is the difference between success and failure? Is it skill? A good thing to have, but practice will get you there after a couple of 100 mistakes. I ought to know that. Is it talent? Well, you know if you have it or not. Opportunity, motivation, yuck. No, I'll tell you what it really is. Success comes with the following: the ability to do something to completion, even though you're not at all in the mood for it. When you feel, tomorrow, when I'm in the mood, or I'll wait till I complete something else because I'll feel, a little joyful. I'll be able to attack this with a fresh mind and a rested body. No, success really only comes from forcing yourself to do things when you really just couldn't be bothered and would rather not, and there are better things to do. Pretty much exactly what I'm doing here now. And yet, I don't see much success with this. But hopefully, you'll turn my words into some success and do those things for which you have no inclination, but you know must be done. So take that morsel and run with it. I'll see you soon.